The Ticket.
Yes, it's just short term. 100%. This is a young man's game. This is a young man's game. These guys, if you knew how hard these guys work with the whole recruiting thing, transfer portal, NIL. I mean, this is a young man's game, and I'm not a young man.
Dirk Cutter on Monday, his first press conference as the Boise State offensive coordinator. A little bit of a buzzkill for the fan base on that, Prater. If anybody had expectations that maybe Dirk Cutter, that the itch to coach was going to be a long-term thing again, found out pretty quickly that Dirk Cutter has committed to becoming Boise State's offensive coordinator for just this year only, which means, gosh, that's a huge decision moving forward for Coach Avalos.
Yeah, but I'm also going to poke the bear a little bit here and say that if you can hear that audio in the background, because I asked that question in the background, I say 100%, and he didn't answer that. And he's competitive, and he's only 63 years old, and it is a young man's game, but there are plenty of good coaches out there who are pushing 70 and doing a great job. Unless Mrs. Cutter stood up and pulled the Giselle and said, no more football.
Dude, that's a thing for you now. Huh?
I'm going to go 5% chance that Dirk Cutter, especially if this season goes well, and what if he captures that championship magic?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe I'll throw this out there. Maybe a new graduate assistant coach on this staff next year is named Davis Cutter, who wants to get into coaching. Maybe he has an opportunity to stay on staff with his kid. And who knows? I mean,
maybe.
But that's not the point of this segment.
That's not the point of this segment. Yeah, the point of this segment is that we are led to believe, and outside of Prater's ridiculous conspiracy theories, Dirk Cutter is gone. Andy Avalos knows that. He's in this weird position of knowing that at the end of this season, he's going to have to replace his offensive coordinator. He cannot wait until after the season. He's going to have to put some thought into it now, ball game.
All right. 208-424-9300. If you want to get in on this, you can give us a call. Maybe JP will put you through the Fat Guys Fresh Deli hotline. But this is our first meeting of several helping Andy Avalos. You are welcome, Coach, to help him find his offensive coordinator, Prater. And first, let's talk about, I don't think we need to name names yet.
We are not naming names. As a matter of fact, anybody that calls and wants to name names, delete their text or hang up on them, JP. We're not naming names today.
I've already turned somebody down.
Okay.
Yes, we're not naming names.
They had a name, huh?
They had a name. I said, we're not doing names.
We are not naming names today.
Okay, well, here's what we're doing. Let's talk about what this criteria needs to be for Andy Avalos in finding his next OC, but also, I think you have to up the ante a little bit financially, Prater, and I don't think you're going to be able to get who you want on a Tim Plow-like salary. I think that's got to be higher.
Yeah, and I'm going to make that even worse here. I got some financial numbers that'll just scare the living bejesus out of you guys. But let's establish the criteria here in terms of what we think we want in an offensive coordinator at Boise State. There are 105 football players on this Boise State football team. The most they could ever have is 110. So let's say they go into next season with 110 football players. Ball game, for the purpose of this hire, only one matters. And I know a coach doesn't probably think this way, but I need somebody to be Talon Green's football coach for the next 3 years. Mm-hmm. I think Talon Green is the kind of guy, based on everything we've heard, from his high school coach you just heard to everything that Boise State's saying, he is this grounded dude. And I get the sense that he's going to stay here for all 4 years. Now, I know that's ridiculous because, we never even, it was such a ridiculous conversation. I never even came up with Hank Bachmeier until a week before, where we started having some of these thoughts. But I'm going to pretend that Talon Green is going to be here for a long time. And I think that there might be some magic in this guy, and I want to see what can be done. I need an offensive coordinator who can come in and not only be a quarterback whisperer, a quarterback guru, who could take that raw talent of his arm and turn it into just a beast of a throwing machine. And then obviously you need somebody to come in who is an absolute true expert on the zone read offense. Whatever background, even if they've taught it a little bit, I would prefer an expert, but you have to have some serious knowledge in the zone read offense, because that's what they're going to run. Even if Talon Green becomes this great passer over the next couple of years, you've got to take care of Talon Green. You've got to have somebody who can develop a quarterback, and you've got to have somebody who is an expert at running the zone read. To me, that's the criteria, ball game.
What about this? Let me throw this in, because I promise you that person who just called JP begging to get on this show because he said he had the perfect candidate. I would imagine that his perfect candidate had a tie to Boise State, was in the brotherhood. So I'm going to throw this to you too, because Boise State has this propensity to keep it in the family. It's like the only qualified people for any gig are, oh, well, they were here before. Like, you know, we're not naming names. So I'm not going to do that right now. But how important should that be for Andy Avalos? Tim Plow was not in the brotherhood. He was a distant cousin related to Dan Hawkins. That was him, you know, his relation to the brotherhood. So he did go outside the box on Tim Plow. How big is that for your criteria for Andy Avalos finding this new offensive coordinator after the season? Do they have to be in the brotherhood?
No. As a matter of fact, no. Zero. 80% of Boise State's coaching staff this year is not in the brotherhood. The two coaches that were in the brotherhood last year are no longer on this football team.
Geron and Winston?
Yeah. So no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna throw out when you establish these kind of criteria in these very first meetings, you don't want to eliminate anybody. So yes, right now on the table, part of my list is the brotherhood, but absolutely, it's not a priority. I don't think it needs to be a focus. I like the idea of going outside the brotherhood. I really, truly do. And I'm going to start there. I want to go outside. There's a couple of guys on this staff that you can have a conversation with. And again, we're not going to name names today, but the offensive coordinator position at Boise State should be treated like royalty. It is a big time position. We're going to talk about cash here in a second. It is a big time position. And I need the biggest net, the biggest expert, the biggest guru, the biggest zone read guy. I need that to happen. Ball game.
You need. I mean, okay. Do you want to have somebody with you want to like for me? I always want the big name. In this case, do you want the big resume, or are you willing to find a guy who, let's say, you know, broke records at Texas San Antonio, or he's at Marshall, or somewhere in the Sun Belt, the offensive coordinator at Coastal Carolina, something like that? I mean, I'm sure all those, but what type of resume do you think you want with this position? Someone who's been around the block, put guys into the NFL at this position, or another up and comer, which I kind of guess what Tim Plow was, but maybe just on a little higher level.
Yeah, I definitely need a higher level. I don't want an up and comer. I don't need a sexy name. I don't need a splash hire. I don't need any of that stuff. I need a quarterback developer and a read zone guru. That's it.
Zone read, yeah.
Zone read guru.
And you really have to make sure Talon Green signs off on this, because if not, you know, if Talon Green has a terrific rest of this season, there might be an opportunity for him to check out some places maybe closer or in his home state of Texas that have a little bit bigger prestige for their program. That is the worst thing that can happen, I think, is Talon Green in the portal wants to go home or play for a big Power 5. The way you get to keep him here is you hire the offensive coordinator that's going to be perfect in his development and his game. And especially if you finish strong here, why would Talon Green, maybe it's NIL money or whatever. Like, you want to make Talon Green say, why would I consider leaving? I got a good gig here. I'm the starting quarterback at Boise State until I say I am announcing my eligibility for the NFL draft, right?
Well, let's not get too carried away.
That's how long Talon probably has this job, though, until Talon wants to leave to pursue something else. So, yes, you got to have a guy who comes in, who has experience with Talon Green's style of play, I think, and quarterback development. I mean, like you said, with the arm, that has to be on the table too, dude. You got to develop this kid. And getting to finances, Prater, I mean, show me the money. Somebody help Jeremiah Dickey out with this. I just don't think this can be another budget hire. You need to pay. I mean, I think this needs to be the highest paid group of 5 assistant coach. The Boise State offensive coordinator should, in my opinion, be that every year.
Not going to happen, ball game. And there's some serious financial issues here.
What?
And I truly believe the financial issues and some of the hires that Andy Avalos had to make over these last couple of years are cash related and directly related to some of the results or the lack of results we're seeing on the football field right now. Here's the issue. Tim Plow is making $280,000. That's not going to get you the next offensive coordinator you need.
That was his contract this year?
Yes.
280.
He was at 270 last year. He got a $10,000 raise. He got to 280. I think Boise State has to shop $400,000 at a minimum to get the next offensive coordinator that can do Talon Green justice. You cannot make a budget hire. You've got to go after $400,000. That is a $120,000 increase to an assistant salary coaching salary pool that is a complete total mess. It's $2.1 million, and Andy Avalos gets to raise it by $50,000 every year.
That's it?
Here's the big deal. I'm about to blow your mind, ball game, and I'm about to depress you, and I'm about to say that Boise State can't afford an offensive coordinator moving forward. Keith Bonaparte is making $125,000 this year.
What?
Because he's still getting paid by Washington.
Okay, good for him.
He's got a 3-year contract.
Oh.
Next year, he goes from $125,000 to $320,000 based on his contract. Already, Jeremiah Dickey and Andy Avalos have to find $200,000 to give Keith Bonaparte based on his contract and what he agreed to. That means you're taking $200,000 out of all these other staffers' budgets, out of all these other staffers' paychecks, and you got to find another $120,000 to go off and replace Tim Plow, whose job is going to demand $400,000 ball game. And guess what? That's what, 120, that's $350,000 that he has to juggle and find. And Jeremiah Dickey's going to give him $50,000.
All right. What do you guys think? 208-424-9300 on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. What's your criteria? How much cash does Boise State need to pay to get an offensive coordinator in this program with a successful pass and somebody who's going to maintain this relationship or keep this relationship with Talon Green and further his development? So that's the first of many conversations we're going to have throughout the rest of this season on the Boise State offensive coordinator search. Let's hop on some soapboxes, JP. Let's keep this sucker going, and don't forget football constantly on this show, starting with tomorrow's game. Russell Wilson hosting the Colts on Thursday night. You'll hear it here on KTIK Sports Radio, The Ticket.
This is Idaho Sports Time with Prater and the